Where football came from, picture this. A long, long time ago, a cave. Somebody sits there, bored out of their mind. In front of them lies a rock. They slowly lift a foot and kick it. The rock rolls away. And in that tiny moment, something lights up in the human brain. Oh, that felt good. That, more or less, is where it all began. Because humans have always wanted to kick things. It's practically written into our DNA. Hand a person any round object, and within 5 minutes they're booting it against the nearest wall. And here's a slightly disturbing fact. Archaeologists genuinely believe some of the very first balls were the skulls of defeated enemies. So the first goal in history was not exactly one for the highlight reel. But let's leave the guesswork behind, because the real story is even better. Let's jump to ancient China, around 2,000 years ago. This is where we find the game that FIFA itself officially recognizes as the oldest known ancestor of football. It was called cuju, which literally translates to kick the ball. Honestly, perfect name, first try. No marketing department required. The ball was made of leather and stuffed with feathers, and the goal was a small net strung between two bamboo poles. At first, cuju was played by soldiers because it counted as military training. So somewhere in ancient China, a stern general was forcing new recruits to kick a little ball around for discipline, even though everybody secretly knew it was just fun. The Greeks and Romans loved a good kickabout too. They had games called episkairos and harpastum, but those were less friendly match in the yard and more a cross between football, rugby, and a full-on street brawl. You played in a giant crowd. You wrestled people into the mud, and the rulebook was essentially blank. And on the other side of the world, in ancient Mesoamerica, the Maya and the Aztecs were running their own ball game with a serious twist. Their ball was made of solid rubber. It could weigh several kilograms, and you mostly weren't allowed to use your hands or feet at all. You struck it with your hips. Imagine taking a 4-kilo rubber ball off the hip for 90 minutes. And it wasn't always just a bit of fun either. Some of these matches were sacred rituals, and the losing team could end up, let's just say, not celebrating afterwards. Suddenly a quiet goalless draw doesn't sound so bad. But now we reach the most important stop on our journey, medieval England. This is where the true grandfather of modern football is born. And it is born as complete and utter chaos. The game was called mob football, and the name does not lie. An entire village would play against the neighboring village. Not 11 against 11, more like 200 against 300. One goal stood at one end of the village. The other goal set a whole kilometer away, in the next village over. And the ball? An inflated pig's bladder, which meant every ball was a slightly different shape. Bounced however it felt like, and slowly deflated as the day went on. Precision passing was simply not on the menu. There were almost no rules. Kick it, carry it, shove your opponent, drag him through the mud, all fair game. A match could last the entire day. Someone always broke a bone. Windows got smashed, fences got flattened. This wasn't a sport. This was a natural disaster with a ball in the middle of it. Eventually, the authorities had had enough. In 1314, King Edward II issued an official royal decree banning ball games in London. Too much noise, too many brawls. But the real reason was even funnier. Men were getting so obsessed with football that they stopped practicing with their weapons. And England was at war almost constantly. It desperately needed archers. So you had this beautifully absurd situation. The king is shouting, "We need soldiers," while the entire male population is out in a field somewhere, chasing a pig's bladder and screaming, "Pass it! Pass it!" Football was banned again and again, dozens of times, over several centuries. And it changed absolutely nothing. Because telling humans to stop kicking a ball is like telling cats to stop knocking things off tables. Hopeless. Now fast forward to 19th century England. The wild game makes its way into the fancy private schools and a brand new problem appears. Every school had its own set of rules. At one school you could pick the ball up with your hands. At another, it was feet only. Some let you kick your opponent in the shins. They cheerfully called it hacking, while others banned it completely. So when graduates from different schools met up to play together, it went something like this. Some grab the ball with their hands, others scream, "You can't do that." And a third group is already kicking somebody in the legs. Instead of a match, you got an argument that slowly escalated into a fight. And by the way, it was out of exactly this chaos that rugby would later split off into its own sport. And then comes the single most important moment in the whole story. October 1863, London. A handful of gentlemen gathered in a pub. Yes, the fate of the world's biggest sport was decided in a pub and resolved to finally end the madness. They founded the Football Association and sat down to write one single set of rules for everyone. But they couldn't agree peacefully. The table split right down the middle. One side said, "We want to run with the ball in our hands and kick each other in the shins." The other side said, "No, feet only. No carrying, no hacking." The Hansanshins crowd took offense, stood up, and walked off to go invent rugby. And the ones who stayed behind wrote down the rules of the game we know today. Officially, it was called association football. And that, by the way, is where the word soccer comes from. The English took "asso" from association, added their favorite little suffix, and out popped soccer. So no, it's not an American invention at all. It's a thoroughly British word. From there, it spread like a snowball. Britain was an empire with ships in every corner of the planet, and wherever the sailors went, they brought a ball with them. The locals would watch, ask what on earth is that, and within a week they'd be playing it themselves. And here's the funniest part, many of the places Britain taught the game to went on to become far, far better at it than Britain ever was. South America in particular fell head over heels for football and turned it into pure art. The teacher had created some terrifyingly talented students. In 1872, the first official international match was played, Scotland versus England. The final score, 0-0. The very first international in history ended in a goalless draw. You honestly couldn't write it any better. In 1904, FIFA was born, and in 1930 the very first World Cup was held in Uruguay. And guess who won it? The hosts. Convenient, that? And here's one last fact to gently break your brain. That classic football, black and white, covered in pentagons and hexagons, was made to look that way on purpose. For the 1970 World Cup. Back then, most people watched matches on black and white televisions, and a plain ball was hard to follow on screen. But black patches on a white surface made it pop, even in terrible picture quality. So that iconic design, it's basically an engineering decision, made for the sake of the person on the couch. So let's add it all up. From a bored human kicking a rock outside a cave, through Chinese soldiers and medieval villages waging war with a pig's bladder, through dozens of royal bands that everybody completely ignored, through a few gentlemen in a pub who had an argument and accidentally invented two sports at once. And here's the result today. Football is the most popular game on earth, billions of fans, stadiums that hold 100,000 people, players worth more than a small country. And yet the heart of it hasn't changed one bit. It's still the same ancient, beautiful idea that struck that bored human thousands of years ago. Take something round and boot it as hard as you can. The only difference is that now half the planet is watching. And somebody, somewhere, is still yelling at the referee through their phone screen.